Hello guys, this is your friend Dark Fox Sage. And we are back with our new fanfic, which is, what if Kakashi made Sakura to stab Naruto in order to save Sasuke? Part 2. And if you enjoy this fanfic, then subscribe to the channel and like the video, it motivates me to upload more fanfics like these for you all. Now let's start the fanfic. After Kurenai had her meeting with the Hokage, she went straight to the hospital. When she reached the room Naruto was staying in, she was met with a heartwarming sight. Her team was surrounding the blonde knucklehead's hospital bed, in what seemed to be a group hug. Naruto seemed to be clinging on to Hinata for dear life. Kiba was at one side of the bed, Shino had his hand on Naruto's shoulder, and Akamaru was on his lap. It was times like this that made Kurenai wish she had a camera. Well, time to deliver the news. Hopefully, they will understand. Something I should know about, team. The teens noticed Kurenai standing in the doorway, and each reacted like they had been caught in the middle of something embarrassing. Well, except for Shino, who simply shrugged his shoulders. Kiba backed away quickly, apparently to salvage his manliness. Hinata simply blushed crimson and stood off to Naruto's side. Giving a knowing smile, Kurenai decided to start off casually and hope for the best, since she wasn't really sure how well her team, or for that matter Naruto, would handle the news. So, Naruto, how are you feeling? I'm fine, Kurenai-san. So, are you here to take Kiba, Shino, and Hinata to practice or something? Naruto asked, sounding disappointed. Actually, I am here to talk to all four of you. At the four genins' confused expression, Kurenai decided to explain. Naruto, I had a discussion with the Hokage about your place as a genin. Wait, I'm not gonna be a ninja. But, I worked hard. I beat Mizuki Tem, it's not my fault that I failed the second test. I was attacked. Naruto, calm down, Kurenai said to get Naruto's attention, and let me explain. After she was sure that he would quiet down, she continued. You are still a genin. The Hokage felt that, despite what occurred today, all of you including your teammates will be given your ranks. We are in desperate need of shinobi right now, since our forces are lower than what we feel comfortable with. Therefore, you are still going to be a genin, even though you technically didn't take the second test. Oh, that makes sense. Naruto yelled. But, wait, does that mean? Kurenai rubbed her temples slightly. At least the rest of my team is allowing me to say what I need to say. That will have to be one of the first things I teach him, patience. I am getting to that, Naruto. Please try to wait until I am done. Looking sheepish, Naruto closed his mouth, but one could tell he was having trouble staying quiet. As I was saying, all four of you are genin. Congratulations, Kurenai stated as she watched the four genin smirk, hoop, holler, and otherwise express their happiness about becoming official ninja. She coughed to get their attention back to her. That being said, there was a bit of a problem with the team placements, which is what your team and I was talking about with the Hokage. So, Kakashi-sensei didn't want me to be his student anymore because I couldn't defend myself or something like that, huh? Naruto asked rather dejectedly. Shino, Kiba and Hinata looked at Naruto sympathetically. It hadn't been a great day for him, so it was understandable that he didn't feel happy about not being under the guidance of the copycat ninja. Not exactly, Naruto, Kurenai responded. At this, all four genin looked confused. Well, time to break the news. You see, the Hokage doesn't want you on a team that could get you killed if he can avoid it. Between Sakura's attack, Kakashi's incompetence, and Sasuke's attitude, he felt that keeping you on that team would do more harm than good. That is why he came to the decision that he did. As of right now, Team 7 will be a 3-man team, with you removed from its roster. Naruto was stunned. He wasn't going to be on Sakura's team. Granted, he didn't have a crush on her anymore, but it was still a little sudden. It wasn't Kakashi's fault or the Tem's fault that Sakura attacked him. Heck, he didn't even want to blame Sakura. Sure, she didn't like Naruto all that well, but she didn't hate him, did she? Naruto didn't know what to think anymore. While Naruto was contemplating whether or not Team 7 was truly as bad as the Hokage thought, the members of Team 8 were curious as to why they were here, since everything that was said so far had to deal with Naruto. It was Kiba who decided to ask the questions that were on their mind. So, where does this leave Naruto, Kurenai-sensei? I mean, yeah, I agree that he shouldn't be on a team that is going to kill him, but what does that have to do with us? I'm glad you asked, Kiba. You see, the Hokage has asked me to take on a little more responsibility. He was impressed not only by how our team handled itself, but apparently on my leadership skills as well. To put it simply, he wants me to lead Konoha's first ever 5-man squad. Sensei, does that mean? Shino began to ask. Yes, it does. Naruto, by decision of the third Hokage, you will become the 5th member of Team 8 under my tutelage. Kurenai explained. I hope you will be happy being a part of this team. Each 12-year-old had a different reaction. Naruto didn't know quite what to feel. First, Team 8 helped him out. Now, he was going to be a part of their team. While he was still bummed about not being a part of Team 7, he wouldn't question his Gigi's wisdom. Besides, he was at least on good terms with everyone present. Well, except for Shino, who he never really talked to and so he couldn't say much. Shino raised his eyebrows in surprise. He wasn't aware that someone could have a 5-man squad. He saw the logic in doing so, but it still was unusual for the Hokage to make a permanent squad that was above the usual 4-man limit. Kiba smirked. He had been friends with Naruto in school and to be able to work with him sounded like it would be entertaining. Well, at least there won't be a dull moment, he thought. Hinata was on a bit of an overload. The idea of Naruto and her on the same team had been something she had dreamed of, but she never thought it would ever become a reality. So, true to who Hinata was, after hearing Kurenai's statement, she blushed up a storm, fainted and fell backwards, right into Naruto's lap. Naruto began to panic slightly. Hinata, are you okay? Say something. Kurenai-sensei, is Hinata gonna be alright? Naruto asked. Shino and Kiba sweat dropped, completely flabbergasted at his ineptitude. They were aware that Hinata was fond of Naruto, but it seemed he was either too dense or too socially inept to figure it out. Kurenai chuckled a bit at her surrogate little sister's antics, then grabbed a set of smelling salts from her pack and used them to wake Hinata up. Welcome back, Hinata, Kurenai said as Hinata woke up. She realized what just happened. Hinata quickly jumped off of Naruto's bed and began blushing again. Gomen, Naruto-kun. I don't know what came over me. She silently berated herself. Stupid Hinata. Fainting on Naruto-kun like that, now he probably thinks you're a freak. It's okay, Hinata. It was an accident, Naruto explained as he gave his signature smile. Hinata felt lightheaded. Naruto didn't seem upset or embarrassed. He understood her, which she was relieved of. She smiled and simply bowed. Kurenai smiled. It felt good to know that Naruto was getting along so well with his new teammates. That made what she had to do next all the more dreadful. She knew that if Naruto was going to be a working member of the team, she had to have Naruto expose his darkest secret. Now that the news is out of the way, Naruto, I think it is time to tell your teammates about your secret. He already told us about the Kyuubi, Kurenai-sensei. Kurenai was absolutely stunned. She looked towards Naruto for confirmation, to which he simply nodded his head. She wasn't quite expecting Naruto to tell them, and she was worried about his reasons. Naruto, care to explain why you told these three about the Kyuubi? I can't really, Kurenai-sensei, Naruto explained. Shino asked me about my chakra, and I couldn't think of a lie that could explain things that someone like Hinata here would be able to figure out for themselves. Plus, for some reason, I feel I can trust these guys. I mean, you all did save my life, so I can at least be honest with you, right? Everyone smiled at this. It was a simplistic explanation, but it spoke volumes. It was then that Kiba realized something. Hey, that reminds me, Naruto, if you have held that gigantic bastard for so long, how come no one else has told anyone about it? I mean, I am guessing more than just the Hokage and our senseis know about this, Kiba asked with a quizzical look on his face. Akamaru barked in agreement. If I may, Naruto, Kurenai asked. Naruto nodded his head, deciding that she would be able to tell his new teammates better than he could. You see, Kiba-san, there was a law put in place by the third Hokage when Naruto was born. You see, he felt that people would treat people worse, or possibly kill him, if word spread that Naruto was the container of the Kyuubi no Yoko. So, he enacted a law that stated that no one was to talk about the fate of the fox. It was punishable by death. He hoped that it would allow Naruto-san here to grow up normally. Obviously, the best laid plans of mice and men went awry. So, Naruto was supposed to grow up like an normal person. That is exactly right, Hinata. That is why no one your age knows about the fox. Now, we need you to understand. What Naruto and I just explained is considered an S-ranked secret. Unless someone else knows about it, you cannot tell anyone, understand? Doing so is punishable by death. She didn't want to scare Kiba, Shino, and Hinata, but she needed to make it clear that it was a secret. It seemed that they all accepted what was going on. Now, if there is nothing else, it is about 6 p.m., and I believe we should let Naruto-san get some sleep. With that, Hinata, Kiba, and Shino left the room. I talked with the nurses, Naruto. You should be able to be released by tomorrow afternoon. We will come back then to pick you up. She then turned to make her way out the door, but not before turning around. Oh, and Naruto-san. Yeah, Kurenai-sensei. I'm glad you trust us enough with your secrets. I hope we will continue to earn that trust. Rest assured, I will do my best as your sensei to make you into a fine shinobi. Get some sleep. Yes, sensei, Naruto responded, before going to sleep, dreaming of better days. Outside of the hospital, Hinata turned away from her teammates to head home for the evening. This left Kiba and Shino by themselves to think about what they just learned. Since neither was needed at home that night until later, they decided to get something to eat as team members. They both decided to eat at Yakiniku Q, a Korean barbecue restaurant in town that was quite popular. It just so happened that, when they arrived, Shikamaru Nara and Choji Akamichi were sitting down to eat. Choji was a rotund young man of the Akamichi clan. His clan specialized in the hidden techniques that involved being able to expand one's body to great sizes. He had red swirl marks on his cheeks, brown hair, and beady brown eyes. His hitai was worn in a way that gave him 2 tufts of hair on the side of his head. He wore gray shorts, a white scarf, a green jacket, and a gray shirt with his clan's symbol on it. He also wore a pair of earrings, which everyone on his team wore now to show they were members of Team 10. Shikamaru was from the Nara clan, a clan that specialized in shadow techniques. He had black hair tied in a pineapple-style hairdo, brown eyes, and wore earrings similar to Choji's. His attire consisted of a fishnet shirt with a short jacket, a hitai on his forearm, and gray pants. Seeing their fellow comrades about to sit down, Kiba and Shino decided to join them for dinner. They exchanged pleasant conversation, including mentioning that Ino, Team 10's female teammate, had gone home early to work at her shop due to her dad being called to Anbu interrogation for unknown reasons. Things were pretty typical up until they decided to talk about the day's tests. Yeah, Choji and I had an easy test with Ino and Asuma-sensei. All we had to do is tie him up. I got him with my shadow possession jutsu, Choji rolled over him with his human boulder, and Ino took him over with her mind transfer jutsu. It would have been too troublesome to do anything too elaborate. Shikamaru explained with the enthusiasm of a cage dealing with paperwork. Yeah, it was okay, the big boned genin said. So, how was your guys' test? Shino and Kiba gave each other side glances and nodded before getting serious looks on their faces. Oh, it was fine, up until Naruto was stabbed 4 times by Sakura, Kiba answered sarcastically, with a hint of venom. Shikamaru and Choji sat there gaping. Neither quite knew what to make of the accusation. They looked to Shino, who nodded in confirmation. Okay, I'll bite, how do you know all of this? Shikamaru asked, now that his full attention was on the 2 members of Team 8. Kiba then went into the day's events, starting with Team 8's test right until they left Naruto in the hospital. He, of course, left out the part about the Kyuubi after remembering the third's law. To say that the males of Team 10 were surprised was an understatement. Both were considered friends of Naruto's in school. They knew he could be annoying sometimes, but the idea of another classmate trying to kill him was almost unbelievable. For Shikamaru, it didn't make much sense. Sure, Sakura always made it known that she didn't like the blonde, but attempted murder. He was sure even Ino wouldn't stoop so low as to attempt to kill another person like that. As for Choji, he didn't know quite what to think. He never really liked Sakura. She was pushy, loud, and one of Sasuke's biggest fans. True, Ino was too, but she was at least semi-partial to Shikamaru and him due to their families being so close. It seemed Sakura couldn't stand anything having to do with the whiskered youth. Well, I can't say I'm not surprised. I know Sakura hates Naruto's guts, but why would she try to kill him? Shikamaru asked. Honestly, we don't know. What more can be said about it? Without knowing all of the details, all we can do is attempt to move on. Whatever her reasons are, she isn't about to tell us, Shino answered. Well, I think we should visit him tomorrow. What do you think, Shikamaru? Choji asked. I suppose it wouldn't be so troublesome. We can ask Asuma-sensei tomorrow, the Nara answered. Well, it's getting late. I suppose we should be heading home. Come on, Choji. Alright, later guys, Kiba yelled as he and Shino left the restaurant. The 2 boys had some questions that needed answers, and hopefully, they could get some ideas. Hey, Shika, how do you think Ino will take the news of what happened with Sakura? Choji asked. I'm not entirely sure, Choji, Shikamaru stated. They are rivals, but I'm not sure how she would react to Sakura being under arrest. Hopefully, once she finds out, she won't make things too troublesome. Shikamaru thought as he and his chubby friend made their way back to their respective homes. Hiruzen sat behind his desk with a critical look at the 3 individuals in front of him. It was about 7 p.m., and right now he was trying to end his day, hopefully, on a high note. Before him were the heads of the 3 largest clans in Konoha. Shibi Aburame, a man who looked like every other Aburame male except for the gourd on his back that held more of his Kikaichu insects. Hiyashi Hyuga, the regal leader of the Hyuga clan who wore the emotionless mask that most associate with the clan. And Sume Inuzuka, the only matriarch in Konoha who also happened to be clan head, with the same feral appearance of the rest of her clansmen, but the dress of a seasoned Tokubetsu Jonin. Of all the meetings he had today, this was the one that Hiruzen was the most apprehensive about. He knew that each family worked together well enough, but he wanted to make sure none of them would have problems with Naruto on Team 8. I suppose you are curious as to why you are all here, right? That would be a correct assumption, Hokage-sama. Shibi seemed to remain monotone, but his posture seemed to show curiosity. Well, It is concerning your children. As long as she doesn't embarrass the clan, and she does not drag her teammates in the muck with her, I have no problems with her being paired with an Inuzuka and Aburame, Hiyashi stated coldly. I am glad to hear that, Hiyashi-san, but that is not what I am referring to, Hiruzen said as he eyed Hiyashi. Wait. Don't tell me that they didn't pass. If Kiba didn't pass his test, Sum began to say before being silenced by the Hokage. Actually, they all passed. However, due to circumstances with another team, all three of your children will have a fourth teammate, making their team the first five-man squad. At their quizzical look, he continued. Because of a fear of personal safety on his part, I am forced to place Naruto Uzumaki with Team 8. He sat silently as he watched the three. Shibi didn't seem bothered by Naruto, Sum seemed slightly surprised, but otherwise accepting, and Hiyashi looked at the Hokage with a look of indifference. I take your silence as the three of you saying that you are alright with this. As I stated, as long as my daughter does not do anything to embarrass the clan, I could care less. I already abandoned her training. Besides, my clan is not so petty that we would blame Naruto for the fox. One cannot hide much from the Byakugan, and it is plain to see that he has two different types of chakra within him, Hiyashi explained. We mostly distance ourselves to avoid being associated with a pariah. Sum was next to begin speaking after Hiyashi. Hey, I may have had my misgivings about the pup, but as long as he remains loyal to the village, he is under your command, so I won't question your wisdom on the matter. I have no issues with this, Hokage-sama, Shibi stated last. Thank you. I simply wished to make sure you were aware of what was going on. Now, unless you have concerns about Naruto or your children's well-being, you are dismissed, Hiruzen ordered. The sound of 3, hi, was heard next. Hiruzen sighed in his seat. He was worried that someone would raise a stink, but apparently he underestimated the accepting nature of the clans, or at least the general indifference they seemed to show. With that last meeting done, he stood, stretched, and locked his office for the night. It was time for a good night's sleep for the Hokage, or at the very least, a good cup of soothing tea. Sasuke sat at the edge of what he deemed his dock. He always went here when he wanted to be by himself. As he sat there looking at the sunset, he thought about what the Hokage had told him in his office. He knew that the Hokage was always a bit partial to the blonde, but he made a valid point. He was so focused on passing the test and getting stronger in order to beat his brother, Itachi, who had slaughtered his entire clan, he missed the entire point of the test. He hadn't even assisted his teammate, who was only 2 or 3 feet in front of him. Had he truly been so wrapped up in trying to show off and beat Kakashi that he ignored his teammates? True, they were annoying and not very strong, but still. Then there was Sakura. She said that she had attempted to kill Naruto to get closer to her dream. She may have been a fangirl, but she took things a little far. Was she really that crazed on wanting to achieve her own goals that she would kill her own teammate just to get what she wanted? Hell, would Sasuke do the same thing? He wasn't sure. On the one hand, he desperately needed power, the power to kill his brother. On the other hand, did Sasuke really want to go as far as his teammate, or for that matter, his brother, just to get what he wanted? Would he really kill a comrade to justify his revenge? He didn't like his answer. He realized that, before all of this, his answer would have been yes. He would even sell his soul if it meant that he could have the power to kill Itachi. Now, he realized that, if he did, he wouldn't be any different than Sakura or Itachi. He would be throwing everything away and not be able to achieve anything else if he followed their route. Not to mention, he would never be able to achieve his other goal if he went off to kill his brother. Sasuke knew that his brother told him that, if he wanted to kill Itachi, he would have to hate him. He knew that, but he also knew that his brother outclassed him in every way. Hell, Sasuke hadn't even activated his Sharingan yet, and still his brother had a more evolved form of it, the Mangekyo Sharingan. However, in order to activate that level, he had to kill his best friend. Did Sasuke really want to have power that had that kind of price? He realized that, no, he didn't. He didn't want to end up like his brother if he could avoid it. He would find power another way. He would never use his brother's way to get power. He would not end up being like Sakura, killing a comrade just for the sake of fulfilling a dream. He looked down and saw his reflection, which for a brief moment looked like Itachi. He frowned before tossing in a rock to ripple the reflection. I will never resort to your methods, Oni-san, Sasuke thought. I will become stronger another way. I will never resort to killing my fellow ninja just for power. I promise now on my name as an Uchiha. Shibi Aburame walked into his clan compound to find his son waiting for him. He knew he informed Shino that he would be late, so he knew that there was something on his son's mind. Hello, Shino. Otu-san, may we please talk somewhere more private? I have a few questions for you. Short and to the point, just like his mother was before she passed, Shibi thought. Very well, step into my office. With that, the two Aburame made it to the office and sat down. Shibi sat in his chair, while Shino ended up sitting in a chair directly opposite to his father. Otu-san, I am sure that you are aware of the circumstances concerning my team. How do I know, you ask? I was there when the Hokage left with Team 7 and Kurenai-sensei. Yes, I am aware of the circumstances you are referring to, at least partially. I was not told why Uzumaki-san was removed from Team 7, only that he would be safer with your team. He was attacked by another of his teammates, Otu-san. Again, I was witness to this myself. Unfortunately, this is not what I wished to discuss. What may I wish to speak of? I wish to talk to you about Naruto and the nine-tailed fox. This caught Shibi off guard slightly, but figured that if his son was intelligent enough to figure it out, or if he was informed by Naruto himself, that it mattered little. I assume that Naruto told you, and that you are aware of the laws surrounding him. With Shino nodding his head in recognition, Shibi then asked about what Shino wanted to know. Otu-san, I know that most clans tend to place distance from him, but I am curious as to our reasons for doing so. Naruto, perhaps more than most, understands what it is like to have something inside of him that is placed inside of him. How could we not be more supportive of him? Shibi sighed, knowing that Shino would not give up until he had an answer. So, he asked Shino to keep silent until he was done with his long-winded explanation so that he could gather his thoughts. Shino, I believe you are partially misinformed. We have always tried to support Naruto. At one point, I even tried to adopt him. He could have been your brother. Unfortunately, there were two things stopping me. One, the demonic chakra that flows through him would not have been compatible with our insects. We would have lost many of our colonies if we attempted to adopt him. Secondly, the High Council felt that allowing him to be adopted by a major clan would have given that clan too much power. Nevertheless, we have done our best to try and support him in whatever way we can. Were you aware that the account that Naruto had to rely on when he received his apartment was funded by us? Probably not. Thankfully, we have only ever had one Aburame that was ever against Naruto. Do you remember your relative Torun? Shino nodded. Yes. He was the member with the nano-sized insects, correct? Correct. At any rate, he used to be a Jonin of our clan, and he even made his way into Anbu. That was up until 7 years ago. One day, he was on patrol and came across Naruto Uzumaki in the village. He used his insects to try and harm Naruto. He was caught before he could do serious harm, but the attack left a scar on Uzumaki-san's left shoulder. Soon after the attack, our clan formulated a formal apology, and then we banished Torun. That is the only time anyone of our clan had ever been against Uzumaki-san. Shino was shocked. His own relative had attacked a comrade of his, before he was even in the academy. It was something that Shino felt ashamed of, but he realized that either Naruto wasn't aware of his clan's involvement, or was trying to be kind. Thank you, Otu-san. I was worried that our clan may have been against Naruto. It is alright, Shino. If it is any consolation, I did want to have you get close to him as a friend, but I figured you took after me when it comes to social situations. Sorry for not allowing you to spend more time trying to become his friend. It is alright. If there is nothing else, I think I will retire for the evening. Good night, Otu-san. With that, Shino left his dad's office to try to sleep, though he doubted that he would be able with all that he had learned that day. Kiba walked through the threshold of his family's compound and asked his sister, Hana, about the whereabouts of his mother. He had a few things he needed to ask her, and he wasn't in the mood to wait. After Hana told him that she was in her room, Kiba sent Akamaru to his room to sleep while he had a talk with his Okawa-san. He walked to her room and knocked, shuddering at the memory of what happened to him last time he forgot to knock. Let's just say, he saw way more of his mother than he ever wanted to see. Sume answered the door, with Kuromaru, her canine companion with an eye patch and a missing ear, at her side. Something you need, pup. Okawa-san, I need to talk to you, in private, Kiba said. Sume got the hint and told Kuromaru that he could retire for the evening. Yes, Sume-chan, the large dog said before he left. Sume then motioned for Kiba to come in and sit on the bed in the room. Okay, Kiba, what do you need? Kiba was silent before he began. Okawa-san, I know about the fox inside Naruto. Sume gasped. Someone had screwed up big time if Kiba knew. Who told you? Naruto himself did, Kiba said in an irritated tone. Look, I don't really care about him having that thing inside of him, but I do have some questions. I know you usually stopped us from hanging out with each other when I was younger. I want to know if it had to do with the fox. I want to know if you were any different from everyone else that ignored him. Kiba was borderline yelling towards the end. Sume heaved a heavy sigh, both in relief that someone hadn't broken Hiruzen's law yet, but also out of frustration of having to explain her actions to her own son. Kiba, you wouldn't understand. That is complete BS. Try me, unless you want me to think you have something to hide. Kiba practically challenged his mother. Look, Kiba, it's nothing like that. Look, I had complete faith in the seal that the fourth used to seal the fox inside of him. What had me worried was just how much influence the fox had on Naruto. Try to understand, Kiba. The fourth Hokage was a seal expert, but the rest of us have absolutely just how much exactly the fox influenced him. We were told that Naruto would have access to its chakra, but we were not told if the fox could take control. Sume then shed a few silent tears. Kiba, did you know that the Kyuubi no Yoko killed your father? Kiba nodded his head. He had been told at a young age that his father had died to try and stall for time while the fourth Hokage came up with the seal. Well, that is what had me nervous. I know he is not the fox, but I didn't want to risk that the damn demon would possess the Gaki and kill you. I already lost one member of my family to that monster. I didn't want to risk losing you too. She then started to shed a few more tears. Okawa-san, Kiba said forlornly. Look, I'm sorry that I kept him away from you, Kiba, but I was scared. It wasn't until I was told that he was gonna be a genin that I began to stop worrying. After all, if he will be trusted to be able to be a ninja, he is okay in my book. That said, I do not regret my actions at the time, Kiba. My fears were very real to me, and I care too much about you to let you slip away from me too. Look, Kiba started. I get you were right about that, Okawa-san. But, If you knew he was not the fox and still treated him like that, then perhaps you had less faith in your cage than you thought. I hope you truly mean what you say, because he is not only a teammate, he is also a friend. With that, Kiba hugged a crying Sume and went off to bed. Hinata was sitting in the middle of a meeting with Hiashi and another member of the Hyuga Council. She knew that this meeting would be about Naruto. She didn't know what her father felt about it, but hopefully he would pass it off as another indifferent circumstance. She knew that she couldn't ask about anything, since she was there mostly for her own information, not to talk. Hiashi-sama, do you really think it wise to allow your daughter to be associated with that Uzumaki brat? I mean, he is a pariah. The elder exclaimed. Not to mention the Now San, I do not think it will sully our name to be associated with him any more than having a weak heir. Hiashi cut him off before he broke the law. The last thing he needed right now was to try and figure out a cover story for Hinata. Not to mention having to execute an elder for breaking the law. However, his eldest daughter surprised him by speaking out of turn. Father, I am already aware of the KQB inside of Naruto-kun. This surprised Hiashi a bit, but decided to see just how much his eldest knew. How do you know, Hinata? Naruto-kun told our team today. And you are fine with this? Yes, Father, Hinata tried to explain. I know he is not the Fox Inc. incarnate, since he has two types of CHCH chakra. And you are both alright with this? Now asked. As long as he doesn't embarrass us, I could care less. As you wish, Hiashi-sama, now said as he bowed and left. After he left, Hinata tried to control her breathing so she could talk with less of a stutter around her father. Father, I have a feeling that everyone in the clan knows about Naruto-kun. If the entire clan knows the difference between Naruto's prisoner and him, why do we not want anything to do with him? In all honesty, Hinata, Hiashi explained, it is because he is an outcast. He would sully our name with his brashness and his way of life. He is simply not up to our clan's standards. Hinata supposed that made some sense, but she didn't like it. Still, it was her father, so she knew that he would do what was best for the clan. So, rather than try to pry more information, she simply thanked him and went to bed. As she left, Hiashi smiled slightly. Beforehand, Hinata would never have been as bold as she was by talking out of turn or attempting to ask about how the clan operates. Hiashi still was not keen on being associated with the boy, but if he helped his daughter, he could take a little embarrassment here and there. Perhaps this could be good for her. Only time will tell, Hiashi thought. Inoichi Yamanaka was not in a pleasant mood. He just finished diving into the mind of one Sakura Haruno and was now sitting with his friend and fellow interrogator, Ibiki Morino. Well, that was enlightening. What would that be, Inoichi-san? Ibiki asked. Well, it seems that the Haruno girl was telling the truth, Inoichi began to state. Whether they were truly the honorable elders or someone under a transformation, I can't tell. The fact is, someone could have changed into them, and she would never have known. Plus, they were in a dark room, so a visual confirmation is near impossible. With no paper trail, no other collaborating witnesses, and no other evidence to connect either Kaharu or Homura to this, it means that we have little in proof concerning the deal, the meeting, everything. That is just perfect. We got those two going after one lone genin and virtually no way to prove it. The Hokage isn't going to like this, said Ibiki. No, he won't. Here's the curious thing, though, she seemed to have a strong disliking for Naruto, but she never wanted him dead. Somehow, she wanted him gone, but not dead. However, regardless, all we have right now is her memories and word, which is not enough to get the counselors arrested. True, but it does have us keep our eyes out for someone. What about the girl? Inoichi set himself in a thoughtful pose before answering. All things considered, she isn't really a threat to anyone other than Naruto right now. She is sorry for what she did, and it seems she was manipulated into doing what she did. All I can say with any absolute certainty is that she is not fully responsible for her actions. Still, she is a threat to Naruto, so for now, we will have to go with the Hokage's ruling. Well, Ibiki said, I suppose we should just keep her here for tonight and simply wait until tomorrow to report to the Hokage. Why don't you head home, Inoichi? Celebrate your daughter's promotion and we can report tomorrow morning. Thanks, Ibiki. I will. Have a good evening, Inoichi said as he left to go home, hoping that tomorrow would be a better day. The Hokage sat at his desk at 7 a.m. the next morning. Directly across from him were his top interrogators, Inoichi Yamanaka and Ibiki Morino. Inoichi was a 38-year-old jonin of the village who was originally known for being a part of the famous formation Ino-Shika-cho. He was dressed mostly in the standard attire of his rank, but with a red jacket over his vest, armguards on each arm, and a pale lavender hitai on his forehead. His hair was pulled into a long blonde ponytail that reached to his lower back. Sitting directly opposite was Ibiki Morino. Ibiki was a man of great psychological strength in the village. Being the top interrogator for Anbu had earned him the rank of Tokubetsu Jonin. His body was a mass of scars, which he covered with a bandana bearing the metal plate usually used on a typical hitai and a black trench coat, completed with a pair of black combat boots. So, what is the verdict on Haruno-san? The old man asked. Well, we interrogated her and found that she was indeed telling the truth, Hokage-sama, Ibiki reported. However, without anything other than her testimony, I doubt that we will be able to get any sort of conviction based solely on the testimony of one genin, especially one that attacked her comrade. Unfortunately, Hokage-sama, I must agree with Ibiki-san on this one. Without some form of collaborating evidence against either Homura-sama or Kaharu-sama, all we have is Sakura's word, Inoichi added. Truth be told, he had mixed feelings about what Sakura did, not because of who Naruto was, but because Sakura used to be his daughter's closest confidant. He remembered telling Ino about it after he came home, of course leaving out the specifics of the case other than to say that she brutally attacked her teammate. Needless to say, Ino was in a state of shock. She may not have been friends anymore with the Pinkett, due to their rivalry for the affections of a certain Uchiha, but it is not every day you hear of a former classmate being interrogated by Anbu. With that said, Hokage-sama, what are your orders? Hiruzen was deep in thought. This whole fiasco was a steaming pile of crap. He had little to no evidence to convict his former teammates of any wrongdoing. His only reliable witness to their involvement was a no-name civilian-raised genin who would have been up on charges of murder had Naruto died, and too many holes to fill. He wanted badly to see some justice for the young Uzumaki, but without solid proof of some sort of conspiracy, he could only do so much. Plus, with reports coming in of trouble involving his former student Orochimaru of the Sannin, and the lost sightings of several S-ranked criminals, Hiruzen couldn't afford to divide his attention even more on a case that would probably not see the light of day anytime soon. With a heavy heart, Hiruzen gave his orders. Without a solid case against them, we cannot do much. I am sorry to say that we will have to put this on the back burner until we have more evidence against them. Sakura has been dealt with, and if they are involved, they will know that and hopefully lay low for a while. For now, however, we will have to keep this hush-hush. If they think we are pressing a case, they may destroy evidence or try to concoct a story to cover their trail. I want someone to keep an eye open, but unless something becomes obvious, we downplay this as a freak incident. Am I clear? Hi, was heard from both Ibiki and Inoichi. They didn't like it, but the Hokage had a point. So, it was agreed that they would downplay the incident for now, but keep the case open if more information became available. Kakashi was walking down the early morning streets of Konoha, en route to the training grounds. The events of the previous day had him wanting to meet with his team, or in today's case Sasuke, on time rather than have them wait for hours to let him visit the memorial stone remembering his fallen comrades and sensei. Sakura was still technically in Anbu custody, but Kakashi found out from some of his former colleagues in Anbu that Sakura was slated to be released sometime between that afternoon and the next day. This was good in that it could mean finally getting started on team building exercises, which Kakashi felt that he urgently needed to start, but it was also bad in that it would mean having to put forth more effort to try and correct the errors of his team at a quicker pace. Kakashi had a long night the previous night. He had met up with Asuma Sarutobi and Maeda Guy, two other Jonin who had genin teams this year. They had noticed the previous night that Kakashi was not acting like himself and had pried into what had happened. Kakashi then went on to explain what had happened to his team. Both Asuma and Guy were shocked, both at Sakura's actions and Kakashi's oversight. They were a bit tempted to say, "I told you so," but felt that things were bad enough as is. After having a long discussion about the subject, they both decided to chalk up the whole mess to a combination of crazed genin mentalities and poor judgment. Feeling that he had heard enough, Kakashi then had left to go and try and sleep that night, which led to this morning. Kakashi sighed. Things were going to get bad enough for him now that the news of his no-wait, the former Team 7's incident, would start to go through all the ranks. This was going to be a long few years. Let's hope I survive long enough to make it that far. Anyways, the last Hatake thought to himself. Naruto looked at the clock on the opposite side of his bed. The device read 9:30. According to the staff, he was going to be able to be released at 12 o'clock that afternoon. Time seemed to be so slow for him. So far, he had visits from a hysteric Iruka Yumino, who was relieved that Naruto was okay, and a distraught Konohamaru Sarutobi who thought his newest rival for the seat of Hokage had died. Rest assured, Naruto had been patient with both of them and had explained that he was fine. He didn't quite want to tell them the details of what happened, mostly because he thought they already knew, but also because he had enough people breathing down his neck. He was drawn out of his thoughts with another knock at his door. "The door's open, you know," Naruto yelled. When the door opened, Team 10 stepped in. Shikamaru and Choji entered first, followed by their sensei and their blonde teammate. Asuma Sarutobi looked like a younger version of the third Hokage. He had jet black hair, a black beard, and brown eyes. His uniform was typical of the standard ninja attire, including a blue Hitai-8, but also included a pair of bracelets on his wrists and a sash from his time as a member of the 12 Guardian Ninjas, a group of shinobi that dedicated their lives to the protection of the fire daimyo. Ordinarily, he would be seen smoking a cigarette, but seeing as how he was in a hospital and didn't want the staff to be complaining, he was smokeless. Ino Yamanaka was the female member of Team 10. Her long cornflower blonde hair, with a bang covering one side of her face, was accented by her sky blue eyes. She wore a purple dress as a uniform, as well as bandages covering most of her body, particularly around her waist and legs. She wore what appeared to be some sort of cloth arm guards and wore her blue Hitai-8 around her waist like a belt. The 4 members of Team 10 all came in and surrounded Naruto's bed. "So, Naruto, how are you feeling?" Choji asked. "You know, all things considered." "Well, it could be worse, I suppose," Naruto answered. "I could have actually died. Seriously, you'd think I had just fought against an S-rank criminal and lost or something. So, what brings you guys here? As troublesome as it is, we wanted to make sure you were still alive, numbskull. So, are you holding up okay?" Shikamaru asked his blonde friend. "Yeah, it must kinda suck to have your crush, well, you know," Ino said, trying to be the least bit sensitive for once. "Yeah, I'll be okay. The whole, "I'm gonna kill you" thing though makes me not want to date her, though, Datbeo, Naruto chuckled. The other occupants in the room seemed to loosen up slightly. It seemed that the incident hadn't affected Naruto's sense of humor, so that was at least a good sign. Team 10 visited Naruto for about an hour, before Asuma ushered his team out. Shikamaru simply shook his hand. Choji left a bag of chips for him, and Asuma simply told him that, if Naruto ever needed help with something, that he could search him out and see if Asuma could help him. As they were leaving, Ino surprised everyone by walking over and giving Naruto a brief hug. "You know, I'm still a little mad about you taking Sasuke-kun's first kiss, Naruto. But, for all that it's worth, I'm glad you're okay." Thanks, Ino," Naruto said with a surprised look on his face. Usually, most girls avoided him, so to receive a hug from two girls in the span of 24 hours, well, let's just say that Naruto was having one of those moments where you wonder if you woke up in the right dimension or not. After they left, Naruto was starting to get bored waiting for his new team. He figured that the old man was probably keeping Team 7 away for his safety. Naruto didn't really feel threatened by them, but he supposed that it was understandable. He figured that the old man was probably worried that someone would come in and try to attempt what Sakura had pulled. Naruto tried not to give too much thought to what had happened the day before. He had spent most of last night trying to figure out what had happened to him. He came to 3 conclusions. 1. He didn't really think Kakashi did anything wrong. He gave an order that was supposed to be followed. How were they supposed to know that it was also a test? 2. As much as he hated Sasuke with a burning passion, he didn't really do anything wrong. 3. He wasn't Sakura's biggest fan right now. She had betrayed him and had attempted to kill him. After another hour and a half of waiting and being checked by the nurses to see that he didn't die in his sleep, Kurenai, Hinata, Shino and Kiba came to the hospital to pick up their new teammate. Once Naruto was checked out, Kurenai decided to try and get Naruto a new shinobi outfit and check to make sure that he had all of the supplies that he would need for his training. The doctors had told Naruto to hold off on training at least until the next day, so Kurenai decided to try and get Naruto prepared and to simply use this time to get to know each other better. At first, he protested, saying that he already had what he needed, but Kurenai insisted, so reluctantly Naruto agreed to the little shopping trip. That was when she made a note of the neon orange jumpsuit that he usually wore and was rather intrigued. She figured that it might have been his favorite color, but this was a little excessive. He seemed a little uncomfortable when she suggested the idea of replacing it with a more appropriate wardrobe, but she convinced him that it would help him in the long run. Still, she thought, it would be nice to know how he could possibly think that his clothes would be anywhere near what a shinobi would wear in the field. Luckily for her, it was Kiba that decided to ask the question. "You know, Naruto, I wanted to know this for a while. Why do you wear that idiotic outfit of yours? What's wrong with it?" Naruto asked, as if what he was wearing was typical for someone trained to kill you in at least 100 different ways. "Dude, your outfit is a neon orange jumpsuit. It screams, 'Here I am. Now, roast my ass on an open fire and use me as a living target.'" Before Naruto could bark a retort back, Shino interjected. "I must agree with Kiba-san, Naruto-san. Why, do you ask? Because there is no way you would be able to sneak around and practice stealth in a suit that is easier to spot out in a crowd than a blue butterfly in a field of moths." Any sort of retort died in Naruto's throat when he heard that. Thankfully, before he could answer, Team 8 had arrived at a local shinobi shop that sold attire and equipment for the village's shinobi forces. I'm not sure I should go in there, guys. I don't have any money on me, and well, this place is kinda expensive," Naruto trailed off. Inwardly, He didn't really want his team to witness firsthand the kind of treatment that he got from the rest of the village. It was one thing to hear about how he was ignored thanks to the QB, but it was something else entirely to see the hatred on the faces of everyone that he passed. The other four gave Naruto a funny look. Naruto, what are you talking about? This place has the best prices in town on stuff, Kiba asked. Well, when I was in the academy, I couldn't afford new stuff most of the time because I still had to eat, so I never came here because everything here was so darn expensive. That, and like I said, I can't really afford anything in here. Why? His new friends and sensei were rather appalled. Naruto had to choose between food, clothes and supplies. For that matter, where was he getting used anything? It was considered a safety hazard to recycle most ninja tools unless it was to gather them up after a training session or to melt the pieces down and reforge material. Used equipment had a habit of breaking and shattering, which could cause injury in the field if someone was not careful. Hinata was heartbroken at the idea that Naruto had to choose between eating and having the most basic of needs when he was growing up. She couldn't even begin to imagine what it would have been like if she were forced to live like that, not that she was spoiled, but she was better off than most. Kiba and Shino were still wrapping their minds around the idea of someone denying an academy-level student food and ninja weapons that would be considered trivial to most anyone. Kurenai was concerned and confused. Concerned that Naruto had been given substandard equipment when he should have been able to afford everything, and confused in that Naruto said he had to choose most of the time. She was aware of the orphan allowance that the Hokage gave him before the academy, and she knew for a fact that it should have been enough to be able to get all of what he needed. Could it be that the village was price gouging him due to the fox? There was one way to find out, so she decided to see just how much Naruto was paying for his needs. Naruto, how much do you usually pay on a typical set of kunai? Kurenai asked. Naruto thought about it. Well, if I can get it used, I can get a set for about 5,000 ryo. Otherwise, I have to spend 7,500 ryo on a new set, Naruto stated like he was stating his favorite flavor of ramen. After he said that, the others were giving him funny looks, like he grew a second head or something. He was slightly confused, and a tiny bit worried that he said something wrong. What? Did I say something? Naruto-kun, why you are aware that a typical set of kunai C costs only about 1,500 ryo, right? Hinata shyly asked, hoping not to embarrass Naruto further. She could tell right away that finances, or lack thereof, were not something that he felt comfortable with. Naruto sighed. He didn't exactly want pity for his life, but he realized that if he was going to be on a team with people that could easily find answers if they needed to, he wouldn't have much choice in their reactions. His life wasn't exactly one that most would call great, but it was his life and he learned to accept it as is long ago. That didn't mean he wouldn't do what he could to change that, but he would accept things as they are. Unfortunately, it didn't seem like they were going to let him get away with it. So, he let them drag him into the store to get his things. Upon entering the store, the clerk behind the counter chimed the familiar greeting of most shop owners. Hello, welcome to our shop, feel free to. The clerk stopped when she saw who she was talking to. She appeared to have a look on her face that seemed to radiate hatred like a fire radiates warmth. Team 8 was on edge, not quite knowing how the woman would react now that she saw Naruto. Is there a problem, miss? Kurenai asked innocently, but subtly was staying on guard. Her team may have known about the fox, but the third's law was still in effect and she would enforce it if need be. The store clerk simply put on a fake apologetic look and worded her next phrase carefully enough to not violate the law, but insulting enough to do what she needed. Oh, I'm sorry, Ninja-san, but we only serve humans in this shop. I will gladly serve you four, but she said while pointing at Naruto, will have to go elsewhere. She topped the whole act with a fake smile that was as obviously as fake as the health benefits of ramen. Naruto was about to suggest they try another store, but Kurani held her hand up to silence him. You are aware he is a shinobi of Konoha, correct? He is nothing but a monster and I have the right to refuse service to anyone I wish. Now, please leave. Hinata looked to Kiba and Shino and nodded. Well, if that's the CC case, I might as well tell my clan that we Hyuga are no longer welcome at this establishment. I suppose mom will be a little ticked, but we Inuzuka can manage, I guess. I suppose the Aburame might as well withdraw as well. Why, do you ask? Simple. You are obviously refusing service to the clan heirs of the Aburame and Hyuga clan, as well as the son of the Inuzuka matriarch. That clearly shows that you do not want any of our business. The store owner blanched. Sure, losing the business of one of those clans could have been bad, but ever since the Uchiha were exterminated, the Aburame, Hyuga, and Inuzuka had become the three most powerful clans in Konoha. To refuse service to them was both economic and political suicide. If word got out that they were refused service, it would jeopardize the shop. In an act clearly to save face, the clerk gave a hasty apology and allowed normal service to the demon brat. Naruto was still adamant that he couldn't pay for anything, but Kurenai stated that she would be buying everything, just this once. So Naruto, with Hinata, Kiba, and Shino in tow, went to the racks to gather some clothes for a new wardrobe while Kurenai picked out his ninja kit. In the end, Naruto got a couple of t-shirts in various designs and colors, including blue, black, and burnt orange much to his delight. He received several pairs of dark green, black and brown shinobi pants, and a dark blue coat with a thin hood and a mesh inner lining to act as a set of armor. In addition, he got a gray coat in a similar fashion to the blue one, a pair of black shinobi sandals, and a pair of black fingerless gloves with a metal plate on each hand with the insignia for Konoha on each plate. Overall, it was a drastic improvement to his old outfit. As the team was leaving the store to go for the evening, Naruto decided to stop and thank his team. Guys, thanks so much for all this. I promise, I will find a way to pay you all back. Stop right there, Naruto. Everyone turned to Kurenai in surprise. I already told you, I chose to pay for this. It is my way of helping you become a better shinobi. You deserve to be treated better than you are now, Naruto. If we can help it, we will find a way to start helping you more. Isn't that right, team? That is correct, Naruto-san, Shino said. We are ninja now. For you to continue to be treated like you were in the academy is unacceptable. We are more than your teammates, we are your friends. As your friends, we will do what we can to make sure that we won't have a repeat of what happened today happen. Being denied your most basic rights is unethical and unacceptable. Yeah, Dobi, Kiba added. Besides, if this means your ass doesn't get as spotted in the field or force your opponent to die of laughing too hard, I think we can stand to do some roughing up once in a while, right Akamaru? Kiba finished with a feral smile as his canine companion barked in agreement. Despite the insulting tone, Naruto knew Kiba long enough to know he was sincere, even if it sounded like a complete insult. Besides, Naruto-kun, why you shouldn't have to hold all of your burdens by yourself anymore, Hinata trailed off. Naruto smiled a genuine smile. Here were 4 people who not only acknowledged him, but were even willing to stick up for him. He had not had that before and he was enjoying every minute of it. He thanked all of his new friends and his sensei and decided to head home for the night. He was going to be able to train with his new team tomorrow, and he knew that this was going to be the start of something great, or at least better than it had been for him up until now.